Okay, we're gonna try this one more time and hope it goes better this time. Let me see. So Kate is supposed to be joining us for the pursuit of happiness and I don't know what else. If I'm clear right now, then we should be good to go. Please load. Island internet is okay. Add Kate to camera, definitely. Okay, I'm clear right now, so it should be good. Kate's is adding. Yes, I'm so excited to what's going to come flying out of our mouth. Hi!
Hi!
So much better. Okay.
Yeah, I can even hear you without delay, so that's perfect.
Yes. I have had issues with internet ever since I've moved, basically.
That's okay.
I live on an island. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
Okay, so people probably don't know who you are. So could you let them know who you are before we get started?
It's a good question. Whenever I ask myself, like, who the heck am I? It's always like so many like things and thoughts. But I guess like the shorter version is my name is Kate Decker. I grew up in the Czech Republic, decided I needed to change my life and my lifestyle. I moved to the US, ended up getting married to an Air Force officer, which is relevant to my story because that's when I decided, like, okay, if I want to build a career or if I want to do something that would really make me happy and fulfilled as we like move into multiple different places. So, for example, this year I lived in like 3 different places. But I hope we're settled here for now. So that's how I started with like my online business, and it was a journey from doing websites to some business coaching to sort of, I would say, still recently. What is within a year is probably recently is coaching people around happiness and about like enjoying life right here, right now to the fullest, allowing yourself to actually be happy and using that as a way to attract what you want in your life, not the other way around, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the things that attracted you to me was like that your group is called Be Happy Now, and I was like, yeah, I need some of this. How do I do this?
Yeah.
How did that come about? How did you start coaching on happiness? Because like that's a big deal for me because we keep there's this like, oh, if I just make this amount of money, then I'll be happy, right? Like this whole
Mhm.
stigma, especially in the online coaching world. And my stepdad used to say to me every single day when I was 15, like, Nisha, it's a choice to be happy. And I was like, no, it's not. But and it's something that I constantly go back and forth in this, I guess, dance with. So I'm curious, like, how did this come about for you?
So that was a long journey too, honestly. I think like uncovering your purpose doesn't necessarily have to take a long time, but when you're trying to like block it and when you have all of the fears, it can take long. So I think all of that started actually um, in a completely different way than you'd maybe expected. Like I was actually, when I was walking today from yoga, I was thinking that it would be probably relevant for me to share this part of the story with you guys, so you know, like how this actually happened. And I promise it's not gonna be super like long. So as I was growing up, I grew up in the Czech Republic. That's why I mentioned that. And my parents were growing up in a completely different regime that I was, which then they were facing a lot of different changes and completely different life. They were living completely different life as adults than they were taught to live as kids, which brought a lot of unhappiness. And as I was growing up, happiness was not a choice. It seemed like people can be only happy when they have enough money, when they have all of these vacations, when I don't know what, but it never felt like it is okay to be just happy, or it is okay to be just playful. Even as a child growing up, I had so many like strict rules, and um yeah, it was never really that much fun to be a kid, as weird as it sounds. Um and then at some point I just decided that like I don't care about the vacations or the money or XYZ as much as I care about being happy, and I want this to be my choice, and I just don't agree with this concept of only being happy if or when or once. And then what triggered that is when I actually got together with my husband, because he is, that's why I mentioned the Air Force. He's in a completely different environment when there's a lot of structure, many rules, and it's always like there's this path that he's on and he's taking the steps, but it's already sort of like the directions are paved where he can go. Um, which is good because Air Force needs a structure, any government thing needs a structure, but also he was struggling a lot with the, oh, I'll be happy, oh, I'll have time when I finish this training, when I reach this goal, when I get my master's degree, when I get this and get that, which like helped me to see like, oh my gosh, it's not just me struggling with this only if, only when, and XYZ, it's more people. And I started looking around and I realized that, like, yes, having money, having vacations, looking good, and I don't know what, it's so important to us. Like, it is. But if we're not happy, it doesn't really, like, if you're not happy within yourself, you're not going to be truly happy or even capable of enjoying everything to the fullest, because then something can take it away from you. Like, when it comes to money, you can be as rich as you want, but if you're not really happy with yourself, whenever you get some unexpected, you have to pay for something unexpectedly, like it can take away your happiness. Or when you're like, I don't know, we're girls, right? So we care about, how we look like and how we feel in our body. And then a simple thing as having your period and like getting bloated and like, your body holds a little bit more water, that can make you unhappy. And so that's how it started. I always wanted to just people to be happy around me and generally know what happiness means, not dependent on the outcome or the outside. And yeah, and I also always say that when you see a truly happy person, a happy person doesn't want to hurt anyone. Like, you don't want to kick someone's ass, even if they're like asked, like if they're even horrible to you. When you're truly happy, you're more likely to be like, oh, well, that might have been just like an honest mistake, but when you feel like everyone is just grumpy around you and like everyone wants to screw you over, you're not truly happy, that's when you're like, oh, well, you're just trying to use me, like, I don't trust in anything nice or happy. And so that's why, like, I think being happy and like figuring out how to be happy by yourself without anything basically from the outside is how you not only you like enjoy your life experience, but also it like helps to other people around you. Because like today I was walking back from yoga and like I was in like a happy mood, and it's just it's like when I get to my flow, I do my yoga and I connect to my body. And there was this lady and she looked very grumpy, and I was like just smiling at her, and she was like so weirded out by the fact that I'm smiling at her for no reason. And she was like, okay. Like sort of like she started smiling, I would say, after that. Or maybe she just made a face on me, I don't know. But I don't think I made her day any worse by smiling at her. So I think that was a long answer to your question.
So, okay, so you realize that, like, okay, happiness needs to come within me, right? Like, not
Yes.
from some external thing, which I think, like, a lot of people still really need to embody, right? Because if we were truly happy, then, like, we wouldn't care what our sales were like. If they were up and down every month, then we wouldn't actually care, right?
Yeah.
So how did you start to like implement, because you said that's not how you were raised. So how did you start to
Hmm.
implement like that in your own life? Like how did you achieve that? Because that is very much a journey and it does not happen
Hmm.
overnight. So, and there are definitely levels of it. So how did you start to be like, okay, I got to cultivate this within me. How am I going to do that?
Well, it since I didn't have any guidance on that, it was more like try and fail process, and like I didn't even know that's what I'm doing. I started doing it out of, I would say, stubbornness to like, I'm not gonna live my life like my parents did. I'm choosing a different life. I don't agree with this belief system, and I'm just gonna do it a different way. So like it's good probably that I'm a bit stubborn, or that the stubbornness within me. So that was like the first step. I'm like, no, I'm choosing something different. But then I started like, reading personal development books, and like actually shifting into allowing myself to be happy and not being freaked out that something horrible is going to happen if I'm truly happy. That was the hardest thing ever. Like, so there was this thing that happened in my life that I haven't shared anywhere, and I'm not feeling like sharing it right now. It's not relevant, but that was when I made this like agreement with the universe that if I if everything goes good, I promise I'm not going to be happy in like fully happy in my life, which is completely different from what I'm teaching right now. But I had that belief, and I just believed I cannot be truly happy, otherwise something bad is going to happen. And I feel like so many of us, even if it's not maybe on such a deep level, have this like, well, I'm scared that if I'm too happy, something's gonna come up and take it away from me. And breaking that particular belief is one of the most challenging things for, I would say, everyone. And for me, it was as well. And it comes with just little things, like little steps, like being happy. And when you catch yourself being happy, tell yourself, like, it is okay to be happy. Like, it is okay to be happy. Or I'm safe when I'm being happy. And like just reminding yourself, because you have to rewire your brain, because you were raised in something, you believed in something for so long, and then you have to change that. So you have to actually get into your subconsciousness, because you have to shift that. So the first step that I would say, even for anyone who's like right now, like, okay, how do I start changing this belief, is when you are happy, catch yourself and say, like, it is okay to be happy. I am safe when I'm happy. And then when fear comes up, for example, another affirmation or like mantra that helps me to like sort of like catch myself that I'm scared for no reason, um, is love did not create this. And that like puts so much relief on me. Like, love did not create this. Okay, that means I don't have to believe in this, so move on. So yeah, those are the like little step, little shifts that from top of my head right now, I would say.
I think that's awesome, but you have a really good point. It's same as like a happiness threshold or a pleasure threshold, however you want to put it. All things can only be this good, and then we just like start freaking out and basically moving backwards instead of forwards because we have like, oh, okay, it can't possibly just be easy and
It's
good
good.
like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what about like some, I guess, steps for people going
Mm-hmm.
starting on this like happiness journey? Because I know for myself, like I definitely struggle with these depressive episodes, and I
Mm-hmm.
find being in business, they come up more often because you're just like, you have, unless you create it yourself, you have no structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I find
Yeah.
it's really easy to like go into the whims of these episodes, which I think is important to talk about because, mental illness as an entrepreneur is a real thing and it's more prevalent. So what
Yeah.
are some tips? Because I feel like when once I joined your group, was like I got myself back on track um, very quickly. And usually I can get myself back on track very quickly, but a few weeks ago I had this like episode that just kept coming up and coming up. So I know you have so much goodness happening in this brain of yours.
Okay, so it's like different for everyone, but something that I know will work for every situation is first is deciding that you're willing to be happy and do the work and heal what needs to be healed in order to be happy. And good way to like, sorry, there's a plane. Good way how to go about it is journal. Like I love writing, and whenever I write, it just I feel so like connected and just like flows out of me. So for someone, it could be singing, for someone it could be through writing, for someone it could be through something else, but something that is really like your outlet, your creative outlet, how to like get what is on your chest out there. So and like free journal on that, like I'm like I'm willing to be happy, I'm willing to take the steps to be happy, and then like maybe even write down what do you think is stopping you from being happy, from allowing yourself to do that when it's to a particular issue. So journaling is the first step, and like being willing to change that, because so often we just don't really acknowledge like, okay, this is the time I am willing to do this change, like I'm willing to transform this, and we just like jump to the second step, and then like it sort of like gets out of balance, because that's like, I don't know, like I don't have any good metaphor, but like that's like if you're thinking that you want your dog to sit and then you're upset at him that he's not sitting, you know, like you don't tell him. So you have to basically tell yourself and tell yourself that you're willing to change that. And the second thing is what I already mentioned. It's the mantras and like observing yourself. Observing yourself whenever a fear thought comes in, or the anxiety thought, or something that like stops you from being fully happy. And like I know that every single person, when we are happy, I know I'm like always like catching my heart, but that's where my like I feel the happiness. Like when I'm truly happy, I always feel like there is something coming from my heart, and it's like this energy that's shining through. And we all have it, and we all know how does it look like when we are truly, genuinely, without worries, happy. So I think it's important to observe yourself, how happiness looks like to you, like how does it feel in your physical body. And then when it's not like that, to be aware of it, and say one of those mantras like, it is safe to be happy, it is okay to be happy. And the third thing I would say is equally important as the first two steps is to be gentle with yourself, because even when it's a process, right? And even when like the anxiety thoughts or the fear thoughts or the depression, or like you get on that like journey, and like it's going down, and you're like, oh my gosh, I know it's happening again, I don't know what to do, and then you get upset at yourself that it's happening again. That's the worst thing. Like you have to be gentle with yourself, like, okay, I feel this anxiety is happening, why is it happening? And actually it helps if you even feel it for a little bit, at least like you get into that feeling and you like breathe into it and you just let it flow, because whatever you resent, whatever you try to avoid, something's gonna happen that's gonna like magnify it, and then it's gonna like just slam you over your face, and like you're gonna end up on the floor crying, and you're gonna be upset for way longer if you just allow yourself to be like, okay, I feel anxiety, okay, why is it here? And then like breathe it out and be like, it's okay, it's fine, it's a process. Just be gentle with yourself when you're changing the structure, because as you said at the beginning, like it doesn't happen overnight, but sometimes we're like, well, like if I said that I'm going to do this, and if I want this, and I did like one exercise on this happiness thing or like non-anxiety thing, then I'm mad at myself that I'm anxious. or like even if it's like, I don't know, like I've struggled with anxiety for a very long time. Like then I had like a super long period when there was like no anxiety at all. And then the anxiety came back and I was like mad at myself. Like I thought I was already over this. Like I thought I'm not feeling this anymore. And then like, you know, that helped me to stay in that anxiety for much longer than I would have liked, and then that would be actually necessary. So being gentle is like a huge thing with any change that you do.
Totally.
I think those are
I'm
the
laughing.
first three.
Say I'm laughing because I can barely hear you over the rain.
Oh no!
It's just like all of a sudden just whoosh across the house. My cat is actually afraid right now.
Okay.
One of the things that I notice a lot is okay, so you've kind of gone through a little bit of this process, right? And you've like had like a day or two where you feel happy, like you feel good because you actually answered one of the questions I had, but like, how do we know if we're happy, right? It is so individual.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find a lot of is people having that fear of the rug being pulled out from under them. You know, like, but how do I know I'm going to be happy tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I'm curious what you would say when those kinds of thoughts come up, like, but what about tomorrow? Because it's the same thing as can be applied to business too, right? I made a sale today, but what about tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. Well, my first thing, it's funny that you're asking about tomorrow. Like, how do you know there is tomorrow? Like, you don't. Like, you don't know if you're gonna wake up in the morning, and you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. You don't know in what mood are you gonna wake up in. You don't know if you're gonna have a good sleep. You don't, like, you have no idea. You don't know anything but the present moment. And that's why it's like, be happy now. That's why the community I created is be happy now, because we so much we spend so much time thinking about the past, what went wrong and when we were not happy, and then about the future, but we don't know if that's going to happen. And I don't want to sound like a pessimistic person and like, oh, a bus is going to hit you tomorrow or something. But it's just like it doesn't matter because you're not there yet. And like, you know, to give you another example, like my husband, like last week we wanted to go to a pumpkin patch, and my husband spent 3 days planning it out, picking out the perfect pumpkin patch, and I was just like obsessed with the idea that we were going to a pumpkin patch, which I was super excited to go to. But until it was the time to go, I didn't put too much thought into it. I was like, we're just gonna like sit down before we go and then we'll pick something, right? It's a pumpkin patch. It's not like we're picking out a house. And that day when we planned and he planned and we would go, it was raining. It was horrible weather and we didn't end up going at all. And I was like, oh, you spent 3 days planning for the future. That is not happening. And there you go. So, and those are like the little things, but that's just like a funny we ended up going to the pumpkin patch this week, so it's like all good, everyone's happy and we have a pumpkin. But like spending so much time like thinking about your future, like yes, it is important, and I don't want you to not plan for your future, but being like just in this clingy energy, like what about tomorrow? Yeah, that's exactly what's gonna put you into the anxiety. Yep.
Totally. Wow. I'm just like so amazed at you. I honestly had no idea what you did and before I joined your group. But I definitely like I've, you know, seen your name around and whatever, but like you are just full of so much wealth of knowledge when it comes to like not just a happiness journey, but the entrepreneurial journey at all, really. Like as a whole, like we get so lost in the depths and feel like so shitty about ourselves so often and compare ourselves so often. Like you are just like this golden nugget that the whole world needs. This
That's
little
so sweet.
shining light.
Well, to also give you a perspective, I don't ever want anyone to think that like I got it all figured out and like, you know, everything is perfect and they're like I don't know, unicorns and stuff, and I don't know what. Like, it's just like, yes, I know all of these things, and I love that I can feel this way, but it was a journey for me. I had to learn that. I have to relearn that, change my belief system, and like, it's accessible to anyone. Like, we all can feel this way, and that's why I love sharing all of these things. But I do have setbacks. I do have days when I'm like anxious AF and I just don't do anything. And but I try always go back to the steps that I mentioned you, and it's just, it can be as simple as these little steps. Obviously, I'm not giving any medical advice, just in case there's someone out there waiting for this. This is not any medical advice, and I'm like not I would say whatever, gonna give you like a prescription for anxiety or anything. But those are the things that helped me, and yeah, it's accessible to anyone.
Awesome. And so if someone out there is having like a really bad day, like they're in the depths of it and they're just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do anymore besides the mantras and, like meditating and being gentle with yourself, like those are things that don't take a lot of time necessarily, right? And so what would you recommend to them? Would you recommend to them step away from your business, like go have some fun, or what do you recommend in those kind of days when you just feel blah, basically?
So, well, first of all, when you realize that you are in that space, you know that you're there. So I recommend stepping, I don't know, sitting on the couch for a little bit or some other place. It doesn't even have to be like your special meditation space. It could be like a completely different spot. And take a deep breath and release it. And then ask yourself, what would make you feel good? Like, what would generally make you feel good? And it's different. It's every time different. Sometimes it could be like, go out, have fun, just let it go. Sometimes it could be just like, hey, let's watch Friends. That's my, like, I love watching Friends, and it always makes me laugh. And I laugh about the same jokes over and over again. I'm just like, Friends. Anyway, or like, have a grilled cheese, or go get some good food. Like, do something. Like, if your business wasn't even there, like, what would you do to make your day better? And sometimes it could be even just being under the blanket and sitting on the couch for the entire day. But what is most important than like being there is to be okay with that. Like Terrio said, like, it is okay. This is just a page in that whole chapter, in that whole book of my life and of my business. Like, this doesn't define who I am. This doesn't define my success. It doesn't define anything. This is just a thing that is right now happening. And again, coming back to being gentle with yourself and connecting with yourself, and like being honest with yourself. What do you need? Because we always know what we need. Like, we always know it. But sometimes the logical just gets like, no, but I have to make money. No, but I have to do this. But like, all of this will get you in the wrong direction.
That is so true.
I'm sorry. I don't know if you were about to say something.
No, sorry. I don't think so. It's the storm. It's just crap. Making the quality of this live stream crap. So if people want to, I mean, obviously they're going to want you when they see this, reach out to you, find you, stalk you, become your best friend, how can they do that?
Well, if you want to stalk me, come to Seattle. No. So obviously, I think the place that I'm the most right now is Facebook. So like, anyone can become friends with me on Facebook. It might take me a little bit longer because I have always so many friends requests, and I'm trying to like message personally to every single person, so I know who am I connecting with. I hate adding people just for the sake of adding people. So they can do that. They can join my group, Be Happy Now, which they will probably find in my Facebook profile, or they can follow me on Instagram. I'm enjoying Instagram. It's so pretty, but mostly Insta stories. So, and that's Katarina.Decker. So Yeah,
Awesome.
that's how you
Thank
can
you.
reach out to me.
Thank you so much for being here. Everybody go to Be Happy Now, the happy place for all women. It is so good. That is my case here. I just want to thank you for your time, and I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
It was good. Let's do it again when there's not a hailstorm.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, have a great day.